following story is incredible and seems impossible. My guests today are currently living in their own private hell as they watch their home invasion in real time. Their right of home ownership is disappearing before their eyes. Laden with corruption, officials from both the legal system, police, and local authorities appear to have conspired to remove them from their formerly peaceful existence in their home in the county of Brooklyn, New York State. I have with me to discuss this issue the people who were victimized themselves, and that's to my left, John Hakanjas, and to his left, Irina Hakanjas. Okay, so this story is very deep and it's very complicated, and it'll take a long time, I think, to get through the whole thing, but what we're going to do is try to do a highlight film about the subject. So, either one of you, what was the first thing that happened to you that got you started in this direction?
It's an announcement from new owner who bought recently property next to us that he's going to expand his lot by taking over our private driveway and private backyard, which makes his land having 2 driveways and 2 backyards, and we will have none.
This person owned the property next door.
He started that before even he owned that property.
Before he owned that property, okay.
Mm-hmm. And next was the fire department who demanded to sign legal paperwork as a gift to him, our property. Then Department of Buildings that instead of correcting his falsely made application with wrong boundaries line, they said exactly these words: you have to give to him your driveway and the backyard as a gift. Sell your house without the land and walk away.
This is the early part of this?
Yes, this is in the beginning.
It's hard to imagine that it would start there at the point where they're telling you to give up something, and that was the first time you approached the subject, right?
Basically, we went to the Department of Buildings, and they told us, give your property as a gift. This is what we're recommending to you. And everybody in Brooklyn gives their property away as a gift. And I was astonished. I couldn't believe it. Then it was followed up with a very consistent statement from the owner that said, I'm going to have your property by official Department of Buildings permit, and it'll all be legal. So I realized immediately that we were in big trouble. And we tried, we had at least 8 attempts at rectifying the situation over the course of the minute he filed his permit. We saw that the application had been falsified. We realized we were in trouble. We got a petition for the neighborhood against this kind of behavior on another property.
You had title to your own house.
I have title to it, but the architects were actually falsifying the property lines, and the Department of Buildings wouldn't really recognize it.
Is it possible that these irregularities in the property line pre-existed and were there, and that's how it was? You wouldn't have changed it. Is it possible that?
No, it's impossible because we have 47 identical properties in a block. It's impossible to be mistaken because they're built in 1925 by one developer. They're the same size, 100 feet by 29.2 feet, and they are situated absolutely the same, have identical deeds. Each property had 2 stories detached house, fully detached, private driveway and private backyard. And everybody parked on their private driveways, and the backyards usually have a fence. Our fence existed since 1968, so he can't be mistaken.
So if he were right, that would mean that your property would be different than the time that you purchased it.
Exactly.
If he were right, which
yes.
is not possible because they were all identical,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. So he didn't have a double lot, and we didn't have a house without the land. So we insured our property with title insurance. We had surveys, and nothing was wrong. And it's impossible to mistake because he had on June 1st, months before he bought property, he made a survey
Right.
He made the survey when it did show two driveways. His house was in the middle. On the right-hand side of his house was our driveway, and on the left his house was his driveway. So, and it's clearly survey showed whereas his property lines, whereas our property lines, and what we own, what him own, and it was identical ownership.
Yeah, when you bought the property, you had what they call meets and bounds on the property. You knew exactly where the
Yes,
the
absolutely.
line delineations were.
Absolutely.
So, why couldn't you contest his application?
We did contest. We did send to Department of Buildings. We did eventually contested in the court. We did everything possible with the police department, with other law enforcement. In matter of fact, in 2010, I contacted the FBI. And in September, FBI agent, special agent Robert Silveri, he announced that our property is getting stolen. This is not any dispute. This is stealing property. We never should have went to court to protect it, because now we're gonna.
This is an FBI agent.
FBI agent.
Now, do you have a report for that?
No, I don't, because the minute he.
Why can't you ask for the report?
Because he said it's not his area. He was located upstate New York. I was accidentally transferred to him. But the FBI New York changed their line, and what they said to us is ridiculous. They said, we do feel sorry for you, and we will can't do nothing, so you on your own. And I asked them, how can you feel sorry for us on the taxpayers' money? We have friends and family to feel sorry for us.
Yeah. So it seems unusual and it seems like a surprise, and yet I know that was it WPIX or something did a.
Yes,
Okay.
WPIX reporter came to our home.
First of all, what was that? Let me establish that where it was from before I know you're going to do
Sure.
a clip. So what's the establishment right before that happened?
Right before
He
that
interviewed
happened,
you because.
he basically came to our home because the police officer that falsely arrested me the night of February 5th of 2012.
To know the year. February. You were arrested for what reason?
I was arrested for an essentially attempted murder of a police officer, and the police officer survived only because he jumped out of the way of my vehicle. And I was charged with 2 felonies and several misdemeanors, and my wife was also charged.
You said that kind of
with
sleight of
some
hand. You didn't really try to run him over, did you? Or
No, I mean the video clearly shows that I had stopped my vehicle, and these folks were actually occupying my driveway.
so
And-
the viewers should know that you filmed a great deal of what had happened to you as it went along.
Right, yes. There was a surveillance camera system that was running. They apparently didn't understand that, and they falsely arrested me in front of cameras on my home.
So it reversed, or should have reversed the charge. Am I correct?
Yes, but that did take some time. You know, it's the legal system, and I was charged. There was also a grand jury that indicted me,
As
so
I
there
said
was
in
I had
the
to
opening-
unwind everything.
Yeah, as I said in the opening, there was police and officials and the fire department, building people. There's an awful lot of people involved here. You also were filmed by PIX, right?
Yes, we
Okay,
were.
so now you were filmed then because, I'm sorry to have to
Yes.
fill in the gap beforehand, but
It's
I don't
fine.
think the viewers would understand the process. So now,
So
what happened?
basically, at that point, I had gone to the grand jury and presented my tape to the grand jury, and the grand jury, after several months, indicted this police officer on 4 counts of lying, 5 different types of lying.
It was for.
I didn't know there were 5 different
It
types
was
of lying.
felonies.
Yeah.
It was 4 felonies and 3 Class A misdemeanor. They indicted him for 20 years, but unfortunately he get in jail for 1 day. the DA office actually did unbelievable obstruction of justice, because they said that it was a guilty plea after he was indicted, and it was no guilty plea because it was proven by us that he committed a crime. So
Who said there was a guilty plea?
the DA office said it was guilty plea, and they forgave for him 4 felonies and 3 Class A misdemeanors. He didn't get any probation, nothing. He got 1 night in jail.
Isn't that an admission?
Yes, it's an admission.
The plea is a
Plea is an admission.
is an admission of a lesser charge, which he pled to, but he was charged with 4 felonies: offering a false instrument for filing, and there was another perjury charge.
And who was that again?
And this was
Diego
the police
Palacios.
officer, Diego Palacios.
It's a police officer, arresting police officer, but significant that sergeant, which was at the scene, who ordered that false arrest, and Argo Palmieri, who was actually extorting our property, they never ever got investigated or prosecuted. It's at least 5 years in jail for perjury, but both of them got forgiven severe crimes by DA office.
So, Chris, there were 3 witnesses in my driveway: the adjoining owner, a sergeant, and this officer who actually wrote the criminal complaint. Because he did that in writing and signed it under oath, he was charged with the 4 felonies. He took the rap. The sergeant is still working for the NYPD, and the owner, they were all witnesses to my doing attempted murder, and none of them, except this one officer, got charged. And it was such a lenient charge. I had to take FMLA after my job.
The people that get into or have these accusations often have to uphill burden of proof to get to where you need to go to get these things solved, right?
Right.
And this is where you're at. You're in this place where you're just constantly fighting uphill.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Now you have a house, and you're supposed to be living in this house. You told me that I think it was in foreclosure or about to be in foreclosure, or what's?
No, it's the story is different. We just before these people came, we were 12 years paying our mortgages. Now it's 16 years, and we had a decent life saving. It was $150,000. It was excellent credit history. We both were employed. We both had the pensions ahead of us, a nice life. So when this started happening, we lost $150,000 trying to disapprove this person, and we did disapprove him 4 times to build on our property.
There's really no way you can recoup the money. Am I
No,
right?
unless
I mean, not that
we
I know
will
of.
sue for RICA, civil RICA, and that will be honored by a judge. Which we learned that the court is so corrupt that they practically legalize.
You could probably do that with good reason without having to worry about whether it was denied or not, and still put the application in, because I think not putting any application in to a system as corrupt as that could be an admission of guilt. I think you got to be careful. If they want you to fight.
Right.
Yes.
They want your house. Some people want your house, the other people want your money. They want something.
Right.
Yes. No, they want our. He actually,
everything.
what happened in the we eventually went to state court, not the federal court with the for the RICA, but state court. We thought police actually pushed us because they refused to take any police reports on our behalf in the beginning, and they pushed us to the civil court. And we thought we're going to just protect our property, get preliminary injunction, and be so it, and it will be over, and we will spend like maybe $5,000. We ended up spending all $150,000 because attorney took the money and ran away, and it was $10,000s, $7,000, and so on.
Yeah, and then if you try to sue the attorney, you'll hire an attorney to get an attorney to stop an attorney from getting sued.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly,
It just becomes a
exactly.
bottomless pit.
Exactly.
Exactly,
But what's
yeah.
significant, 8 months later, after our case was filed, filed. And after he got preliminary injunction denial in our case by giving sworn affidavit that he's not interfering with our property. We had the proof, but judge ignored the proof, give him preliminary injunction denial, and the Sargo Palmieri, he filed new lawsuit in the same property that was already in the same court, which is not permitted, and he demanded everything we own, our land, our house, and $1.5 million from us.
You know, I can barely understand why this happened to just you and why that property has become so valuable. Is there gold there or something?
No,
Is there dirt in the basement or something?
No, it's not just happened to us. Matter of fact, we met people with identical to our case. Started with Department of Buildings, the same situation, identical properties, the same situation with foreigner, unlawful person demanding everything we own, and even amount the same. He wants their property and he wants $1.5 million.
Hold it, this is the same person?
It's a different person, but the same Department of
okay,
Buildings,
okay.
the same police department, the same district attorney's office, the same FBI office.
And you know, when you want to do something like this, you have to go to you have to go to a legal system, I guess, to stop something from happening, and that always costs you money, and here you are.
It was
It's
all costing us
impossible.
money.
It's impossible.
We were presenting administrative appeals, which to the Department of Buildings, which are basic legal documents that are filed, and all of that to document just what was happening to us. And despite all that, he got approved 4 times to do this. Because as soon as I waited my 8 months to get an approval, because a lot of times you have to go through this hierarchy. They deny you in the initial stages, and then when you get to the smarter folks, they actually will say, you know, you're right. There is an issue here. It takes 8 months. And then he's approved a day and a half later for another swipe at my property. And I can't keep up with that. It's impossible to keep up with.
I don't understand how it can continue in this country. I always believed that your property was your own right and, you know, owned by you and no one else, and that you had a certain inalienable rights, that you would own that property, and you shouldn't have that taken away from you.
Chris, something is wrong now in this country. I wanted to make an announcement. I checked FBI offices all over the United States. The same thing happening in California, the same thing happening in Florida and Pennsylvania. People losing their property either to the bank's fraud or through foreclosure, either to racketeering and extortion like ours. And they're helpless. The court system actually victimizing them more. It's victimizing them to the point that they giving up everything they own and want just to save their lives. Because in the same time, when court taking your property, judge takes your property, when attorney stealing your money, when police department harassing you, when Department of Buildings offering to you give up everything you own, in the same time you got beaten up, your cars getting vandalized, its cars losing its brakes, your property also getting vandalized.
So you have to worry about basically just about every corner
your
you
life.
turn. You have to worry about your life. Right. It's so difficult to understand that somebody actually goes through this.
Yes.
Where are you at now? But did we cover the clip? Did you talk about the clip?
I just mentioned that that clip. The reporter came to the house.
Is this the WPIX?
WPIX. Reporter came down as soon as the police officer was indicted, which was somewhat of a relief. And you would think that, you know, after reading the news, that he's going to spend 20 years in jail for that, you know, because that's what it added up to.
Hello, I'm Jody Applegate. Now your Pix 11 at 10. An NYPD cop has been indicted, accused of trumping up charges against an innocent man. What he didn't know, though, is that surveillance video tells the real story. Jay Dow joins us with more on this. Jay?
The NYPD officer's name is Diego Palacios. He's now a criminal defendant, accused of lying under oath about what happened during his attempt to resolve a dispute between neighbors. There are at least a half-dozen surveillance cameras peering out from the walls of John Hockenjos's Sheepshead Bay home. NYPD officer Diego Palacios, seen standing in Hawk and Joseph's driveway, apparently didn't think they were working. Brooklyn prosecutors say the officer flat out lied about what happened during his February encounter with the vigilant homeowner. The officer was arrested this morning. Your camera saved you. This could have very well have come and gone, and no one would have been able to prove otherwise.
Unfortunately, sir, I would say that a lot of people are in situations where they don't have proof that an officer lied under oath, and they're sitting in prison right now.
Seconds earlier in the recording, Hawkinjos is seen slowly pulling into his own driveway. He gets out and walks around the car to speak to Officer Palacios. But investigators say the officer wrote that Hawkinjos pulled into his driveway at a high rate of speed, so fast that the officer, sworn to protect and serve, allegedly lied in his report that he had to leap out of the way for fear of his life. It gets worse. Hawkinjos was arrested and had to spend 3 nights in jail.
He was not in danger. I mean, it's as simple as that. I was facing 7 years in prison. I did nothing wrong. I simply came here on Super Bowl Sunday to enjoy the Super Bowl on my property.
So why all the cameras? Neighbors gave us the scoop.
I think it has to do with the cars in the driveway, and one of them is on the other one's property, and you just don't really ever know the exact nature of why they're fighting. It's just they're always fighting.
Prosecutors say they don't know what Palacios' motive was, whether he was trying to advocate in some way for Hawkinjos' neighbor, or whether he saw some kind of financial opportunity in lying about almost being hit by a car. In any case, he faces several criminal charges, including falsifying business records. If convicted of all charges, he could spend up to 20 years in prison. In Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, Jay Dow, Pix 11 News.
He spent one night, Chris, in jail, and I went into a state of shock. I couldn't believe when I heard that plea deal gave him no fines, no probation. I could be attacked as many times as I wanted, and there was nothing I could do about it. The DA basically gave him a free ride. The sergeant was never charged and still works for the police department, and the adjoining owner, he's scot-free, you know, so I end up losing my job because of all this trauma.
Is there any kind of like invasion of privacy or something like that? I mean, something simple that you can get him on? There must be some way to stop that from happening.
The thing is, it's easy we can stop him because penal law, nobody, at least we don't know that penal law was withdrawn by President of the United States or by anyone else. Penal law of New York State exists, which protects the property rights. It says in white and black that real estate property protected. You can't demand it, you can't steal it, you can't extort it, you can't make people to give it up. But unfortunately, everyone who we deal on the way is working against us to save our property, and it's law enforcement.
A lot of people do what they can in their lives to try to obtain a piece of property, to say that something, whether it's theirs or not, you know, fundamentally or not.
But what you're having criminal acts, criminal felonies committed against you. I've been defamed on the internet. I can't get a job. Now that I've lost my job, I can't even get a job. He is hiding. This individual is hiding under a cloak of or a veil of this is a civil dispute, and the fact is we're being extorted and coerced into giving up our property by pressure.
Sure.
Smashed windows, cut brakes on my car. It just the gangs showing up at my house threatening to kill me. All of these things are happening. Criminal acts directed at me, and I'm frightened to death, Chris. I don't know where to go. I mean, I'm supposed to trust the police department, but it's not there.
There's no place else you can go that I can think of. And well, one of the things you can do is what we're doing now, and hopefully we're getting the message out this way, and hopefully I can produce something for you here. But what I'd like to know going forward, because we only have a couple of minutes left, believe it or not, where are you now in terms of what you plan on doing, and what is your next step, and how's it going?
One of the things we just received were orders from the judge that denied my insurance to protect my home, so now I can't be made whole. He also denied the contempt orders, because we did have a restraining order before my arrest. I had a restraining order, and I told the police officers this. And he denied, this judge, civil judge, denied my contempt for punishment against this individual for having violated the restraining order. And so I can't punish him. In the meantime, the guy is suing me for $1.5 million, and all of that is still alive. So this is what I got to look forward to, another year to 2 years of hell, because
And be on the street, homeless.
yeah, if he gets awarded $1.5 million for making up a hoax about some kind of injury or something, I'm the one that's going to pay with my house.
Of us.
It would be the crime of the century, that's for
yes.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
but we found other people who already in different stages
Oh
than
yeah, I
we
was
are.
going to ask you that question.
Yes.
Okay, so you found a bunch of other people who are in a
Yes,
similar
bunch
place.
of other people who actually lost their title to their home already, and in their case, it's the same situation, complete stranger, because buying next to you or coming and trying to buy your house and you not agree, like in their case, it's not qualified person to own your property. And in our case, it's complete stranger demands everything he doesn't own. In their case, the same, but it's they progress more and they victimize more, and they're in worse condition, let's say. But what's scary is, Chris, these things happening in Supreme Courts, in family courts, in surrogate courts. There is no law. Judges forgot what law is. They don't even need to know the laws, because what they do, they legalizing claims that are frivolous, that are meritless, that shouldn't exist even. The cases shouldn't be open for this kind of claims.
You wonder sometimes if they just need something to do, because what would be the major purpose here?
I think major purpose here, get the bribes, because nobody grants $1 million house to another person who doesn't own it just for nothing. You know, this political favors, this criminal favors. I know that some politicians get arrested and investigated by FBI just for taking bribes. This is severe crimes of extortion, of racketeering by politicians.
It's what it is, and you know, the corruption is very deep. I hope in some way we can, you know, begin the process for you to help you get out of this situation and get your peaceful life, which it says in your contract, by the way, your peaceful enjoyment in your. Take a look at your real estate contract. You'll see that exists.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Huh?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, it's you have a right to
should
peaceful
be.
enjoyment. It says it
Yes,
someplace in
that's
your real
true.
estate contract, because they all do. They have some real estate experience. I hope this ends for you, you know, as soon as possible. I hope it doesn't go on forever. And thank you very much for your time today. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV, of course, every single week. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you very much for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.